Welcome to our deep dive explainer on the recent state assembly elections. Today, we're taking a strictly data-driven look at a massive democratic exercise, the West Bengal exit polls and electoral turnout. We're going to break down the numbers, the historical context, and the political claims, really parsing the data to understand exactly what's happening on the ground. 92.47%. Just let that number sink in for a second. We are talking about near universal voter turnout here. Out of all the eligible voters in West Bengal, an astounding 92.47% stepped out to cast their ballots in this assembly election. You know, in democracies around the world, hitting a 70 or 80% turnout is considered a monumental historic achievement. But crossing the 92% mark, that is a truly staggering level of civic engagement. It tells us right off the bat that the stakes in this election are incredibly high, and voters are highly motivated to make their voices heard.
All right, let's dive into our first section, the bumper voting statistics. So, how did we get to that massive overall number? Well, Phase 1 set an incredibly high standard right out of the gate, with a turnout of 93.19%. That is absolutely massive. Then, moving into Phase 2, which was the second and final phase held on Wednesday, we saw a very slight dip to 91.66%. But honestly, even with that minor decrease, the numbers remain astronomically high. According to the Central Election Commission, the sustained momentum across both of these really intense phases is exactly what drove that record-breaking overall average of 92.47%.
Now, let's zoom out for a quick second to Section 2, voting in other states.
To give you the broader national context, let's walk through the timeline. Chronologically, on April 9th, voters in Assam, Kerala, and Puducherry all cast their ballots in a single, unified phase. Then, moving down the calendar a bit to April 23rd, Tamil Nadu also completed its voting, again in a single phase. Finally, this entire block of regional elections culminated this past Wednesday with the final phase in West Bengal. When you step back and look at it, the sheer logistical scale of these democratic exercises happening almost back-to-back across the country is just remarkable.
But let's bring the focus right back to Bengal for Section 3, the electoral math.
Okay, so here is the crucial math you need to know. The West Bengal Legislative Assembly consists of a total of 294 seats. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. And to take control and actually form a government, a party or a coalition needs to hit a magic number for a clear majority. That number is exactly 148 seats. Every single campaign strategy, every massive rally, and literally every single vote making up that 92.47% turnout is ultimately aimed at crossing this specific 148-seat threshold.
Which brings us to the post-voting political claims, Section 4, exit polls and claims. In the immediate aftermath of the final vote, things got really interesting. On one side, you have the Trinamool Congress confidently claiming that they've secured a victory. But simultaneously, on the other side, the BJP has made their own completely confident claims of emerging victorious. Both major political forces are projecting absolute confidence right now. They're both looking at that exact same 148-seat target and telling the public, yep, we've successfully hit it.
But what do the analysts say when they look past all these political claims? Well, the overarching consensus among political experts is that we are looking at an incredibly tough competition between the BJP and the TMC. Because the turnout was so exceptionally high, at over 92%, traditional predictive models are literally being pushed to their absolute limits. I mean, the sheer volume of votes makes this an unbelievably tight race. Experts are essentially warning us that it's just too close to call by simply looking at the surface-level data.
So what does this all mean? It leads us to a final, really provocative question. Will the exit polls be wrong again? We have to remember, during the last assembly elections in Bengal, the early projections proved to be entirely inaccurate. Now, with such a staggering 92.47% of the electorate having their say in a remarkably tight race between the TMC and BJP, the suspense is truly palpable. Can we actually trust the current projections, or are we in for another massive surprise on counting day? Keep these numbers in mind, keep watching that 148-seat threshold, and we'll soon see who actually emerges victorious in this intense democratic battle. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack these fascinating numbers today.